Why only doctors are asking for a Central Protection Act? Why not engineers? Why not CAs? Why not give it to lawyers? Why not give it to other people who are dealing with the public? This is a comment that was made by one of the advocates in response to one of my tweets. And I think it's very important that the doctor community responds to it in a logical way. The answer is pretty straightforward. Doctors form one of the very few professions where public dealing is a daily thing. Every doctor probably meets 50 or 100 or 150 people every day, but that is not what makes the doctors different. There are many professions where there is public dealing involved. The difference is when a doctor meets a person, that person is often in a vulnerable state of mind. Nobody likes coming to a clinic or a hospital, when they are healthy and hearty. When people are in pain, when people are distressed, that is when they go to a clinic or a hospital. And sometimes they are just accompanying their loved ones. Imagine a father entering the clinic of a pediatrician. He is a father of a 4-year-old boy who has been running high grade fever, not eating, does not look good, and this father is extremely distressed. He comes to the clinic hoping that this guy who is sitting with a stethoscope and a lab coat will save his child. In most of the cases, that child is saved. But doctors are no gods. They cannot save everyone. If doctors were so powerful, there would never be any death in the doctor's family. But that doesn't happen. I hope everybody remembers that in the second wave of COVID, more than 1,000 doctors lost their lives only in Delhi. But try to understand the frame of mind of that father. He thinks that if this person tries hard enough, my child would be saved. But factually, that is not true. It's not always a question of the efforts made by the doctors. Sometimes the illnesses are such that nobody can do anything. Sometimes patients come to the doctors at such a late stage that nothing can be done. But people forget that when a death happens, when something bad happens, nobody in this world can think rationally. Of course, emotions take over. So somebody has died, the loved one is standing next to that person, and there's a third person who is immediately blamed for everything. And that is why violence happens. When people are emotionally disturbed, displacement is one thing that happens very commonly, very oftenly. Right? Nobody wants to say that I got late in bringing this person to the hospital. Nobody wants to say that we did not take precautions enough. Everybody wants to say that doctor did not do his job properly. Also imagine the state of a doctor, the mental state of the doctor. Do common people realize that when a doctor has to go and break a bad news, it is so difficult? Imagine going to a mother and telling that your child has cancer. Imagine going to a 50-year-old man and telling him that the cancer is in advanced stage and telling the prognosis. Or imagine the breaking of news that someone has died on the OT table to the family members who are waiting outside. These are not easy scenarios. These are very difficult scenarios. And doctors have to do it day in and day out. Sometimes people say that doctors don't appear to be unperturbed, but they have to do it every day, so many times. What does general public expect? Do you think a doctor should be coming out and cry and give that news? If that was the case, doctor is not doing the job properly. So what I'm trying to tell is that the dealing of the doctor with people is in those states where the people are in their in a very vulnerable state of mind, often displays the anger and may indulge in acts of violence. Now, doctors are not the only professionals who deal with people in their vulnerable state. Judges do that too. When a judge, every day goes to the court and announces a sentence of 10 year, 20 year, that judge is, making a very big change in the life of an individual. But are judges protected? The answer is yes. They are given such a good protection that nobody dares do anything against the judges, and that is the right thing to do. We have to save our judges, otherwise how will justice happen? Police often deals with people when they are distressed. Some murder has happened, somebody has died by suicide, someone has lost everything in a theft and they are dealing with public is completely distressed, but is the police protected? Yes, they have the guns, they are trained for that, they are in a company of other people who are trained for that. Politicians who have to deal with people who have a lot of power, are they protected? The answer is yes. But is an individual doctor protected? The answer is no. How many police personnel are there in a ward? No, zero. Often in a medicine ward, in a surgery ward with hundreds of patients and hundreds of attendants, there are one or two doctors who have to deal with everything. How would they handle all this crowd? That is why doctors feel so vulnerable at times, and that is why it's very important that we create a strong deterrent. Nobody goes and fights with the judge because they know that if they do so, the consequences would be very bad. Nobody dares and touches a police officer because he or she knows that if he does so, the consequences would be very bad. The same thing we are asking. Ensure that if anybody dares to misbehave or get violent with the doctor, the person realizes that the consequences would be very bad, because the nature of profession is such that you would always be dealing with people who are emotional, who are distressed, who are vulnerable, and a strong deterrence has to be set, it has to be created. And with due respect to the advocates and the CAs and the engineers, none of the things that I just discussed are applicable to them. They are not dealing with life and death on a daily basis. So this is the reason why a Central Protection Act is the need of the hour. This is why we feel that many problems can be taken care of if we get a strong Central Protection Act. And also remember, it's not only about the doctors. The more cases of violence you see in the society, the more defensive the practice becomes. If the violence continues unabated, no doctor would want to touch any difficult case. And it's already happening. People want to refer the patients to the government hospitals. Nobody wants to take the chance. So it's not only a problem of the doctors, it's a problem of a common man also. I hope a common man understands that if something happens to your family members, the person on whom you have all the hopes, his hands are free. He's free to help you out. He should not be scared for his life. So Central Protection Act is required not only for the doctors but for the society at large. Ignoring this issue by putting doctors in the same bracket with other professionals and the whataboutery, why not other professionals, is not going to help anyone. I hope this answers the question that has been asked for quite some time. Thank you.